I've made a couple videos recently making mashed potatoes out of my potato flakes that I made from the potatoes I harvested last year. And while the mashed potatoes came out a little denser than I kind of hoped for, it gave me an idea. The first time that I tried it, the consistency was reminded me kind of the inside of like a potato cake, such as a McDonald's hash brown. So it gave me the idea to try to make a potato cake style hash brown out of these flakes. So I've got 1 cup of water just about boiling here, and I'm going to add the last ½ cup of my potato flakes from last year's harvest. And I have no idea what's going to happen. I don't know if this is going to be a huge failure, but I'm interested in trying it out because something sounds really appealing to me about the idea of a crispy, fried, golden brown hash brown if, let's say, the grid goes down or grocery stores aren't open or I otherwise can't get food and I'm relying only on what I have here. Well, I never have a shortage of dehydrated ingredients and cooking oil and things like that, spices, so that seems like all you need. So this is going to be kind of a thick mixture, and that's the point. I don't want it too soupy, so I can sculpt it into a cake. So this is just about boiling, and I'm going to go ahead and add these flakes in there. And I'm going to turn the heat off. Now I'm going to cover this and let it sit for a few minutes and we'll see what we have. Alright, it's been about 5 minutes, so I'm going to take a look at these things. And, you know, it's pretty close to how I hoped it would be. Too dry for mashed potatoes, but it seems probably wet enough to kind of cling together. So I guess I'm going to get this over on the counter and maybe turn it into a hash brown patty. Here's our pile of mushed up potato flakes, and before I sculpt this into a patty, or attempt to do so, I'm going to mix a couple of seasonings into it. I'm going to use some onion powder. I have dehydrated onions that I could have ground up into some powder, but for the sake of an experiment, this seems a little easier, so I'm not going to go crazy on it. Just enough. I guess even some really finely minced fresh onions would be pretty decent in here. Just a little bit of black pepper. And I'll salt it, but I'll wait till it's done and you know, hopefully golden brown, and I'll salt the outside of it like that. But for these, I'm just gonna sort of squish it into the mixture here. And this is still pretty hot because it came out of that boiling water not very long ago. I can tell that the dehydrated flakes are pretty hydrated, but not entirely. This thing is getting to be very sticky. So if I had a whole bunch of this and I was going to make a lot of it, I suppose that I would flatten it out and maybe use some kind of a cookie cutter or something. But I don't know. I'm happy with something just about like this. And I think I'll use a spatula to pick it up off this counter so it doesn't fall apart when I do so. But I don't know, that seems about as thick as the kind of potato cake or McDonald's hash brown that you'd buy. So I'm going to get some oil heated up and we're going to see what happens. Alright, this oil is good and hot, and I'm going to very carefully put this thing in. I am interested to see what this does. I might not have needed to put that much oil in. I figured I'd put enough in to cover about halfway up the patty, and I guess that's about what it is. Now I'll mention that I have dehydrated potatoes in a few different forms. I've got shredded hash brown type potatoes. I have cubed, I have sliced. Some of them are partially cooked before dehydrated, some of them aren't. I didn't used to cook them at all first, but As you dehydrate them, they start to turn kind of this nasty looking gray color. And even though it doesn't affect the taste or the quality really, it looks kind of unappetizing. It's a lot easier to work with raw potatoes though. Once you start to cook them and then you want to cut them up or slice them, they kind of want to mush apart, especially if you haven't peeled them. The skins are just sort of peeling every which way. But those, if I was to try to make one of these out of a dehydrated potato that hadn't been cooked first, I would surely have to soak it for a while first and then probably wring all the water out of it, kind of like you would if you were using fresh potatoes. You don't want them particularly wet, but you also want to make sure to rinse them thoroughly to get all that, the extra starch and stuff out of it. Because these started off as mashed boiled potatoes, they were in a lot of water already, so as much starch as is going to come out of these has probably already come out. I guess I could have used a non-stick pan for this, but this cast iron skillet is pretty seasoned, and I guess it's going to work okay. Something seems more appealing to me about using cast iron for things like this. I don't really know why. Makes it seem more rustic or something. I'm going to try to take a peek at the bottom here, and it's definitely not completely browned yet. It's starting to get it, but I don't want to move this around too much before it's ready because it might fall apart. Of course, it could do that anyway. I don't really know what I'm going to get from this final product. So we're just going to let this fry a little bit more. If I was doing this outdoors, I'm sure I would turn the heat up a bit more and get this oil a little hotter, but in this kitchen, I don't really want to have it spit oil all over the place. I don't really do a lot of deep frying or even shallow frying in oil in the house for that very reason. This kitchen's already kind of a disaster enough most of the time. Alright, well, I'll let this cook a couple more minutes and then turn it, and we'll come back there. Alright, I'm thinking that this is probably ready to turn. I'm a little nervous to do so because I don't want to make a mess, so what I'm going to do is, I think, grab a second utensil to help me turn this without splashing anything. That's pretty golden brown. I think that maybe the edges are a little too done, but the middle here hasn't gotten completely browned yet, which is a little weird. Maybe that's a effect of me not flattening this thing perfectly smooth, or maybe some of these bits came off and got stuck to the bottom of the pan as I turned it. I guess that's possible too. But so far I'm a little bit optimistic. Like, this thing actually looks about the size of a big burger patty. In the absence of meat, I guess I could make myself a potato hamburger. Put a bunch of starch between two big slices of starch. Sounds pretty good. I've had burgers that have a great big like mushroom cap instead of meat. I'm not really very interested in veggie burgers or tofu burgers or soy burgers or any of that kind of stuff. I don't know, I just can't get used to it. I can't do it. That's okay. I'm not going to be able to store that kind of thing for very long anyway, I imagine, so it doesn't really matter. This probably just could use a couple more minutes on the bottom here, and then I guess I'll set it on a couple paper towels to soak up a little grease, and I guess we'll pick it up there. Well, here's the second side that I cooked, and you can see it again. It was cooking a lot more around the edges than in the middle, but you know, all in all, it looks pretty good. I'm gonna go ahead and put a little salt on it, and I'm kind of interested to see what it's like in the middle here. It's awfully crispy. I hope that just doesn't mean the potatoes aren't dehydrated or rehydrated enough. But this thing's still screaming hot, so I'm trying not to necessarily touch it too much. Well, I guess I have to. It doesn't look bad at all, huh? It looks like something that I would be interested in eating. It's a little hard around the edges. It might have got a little too crisp there. That is just way too hot for me to put in my mouth just yet. I'm going to give this just a couple minutes to cool. Alright, hopefully it's cool enough for me to eat this now without burning my mouth. Well, I'm not going to say it's the best hash brown potato cake I've ever had, but it's pretty good. The texture, it's a little chewier than if I did this with fresh potatoes. And I guess I could say the same about it when I made mashed potatoes out of these flakes. It probably just needed to be a little more rehydrated. But it's not bad. The taste is good. The outside edges here are a little on the hard side. So I might have to just get a little better at frying. I don't know. The taste is good. I can taste a little bit of that onion powder, black pepper, and the salt, of course. It's decent. I say this about a lot of the I'll call it dishes that I put together from my dried or stored or long-term ingredients. And that's, in the absence of fresh ingredients or the ability to go to the grocery store whenever I want, this is great. This tastes really good. If other people are unable to eat like this, I'm going to feel awfully lucky and really hope that they don't, pick up the scent of fried hash browns on the air. But I'll tell you what, this sure beats the heck out of standing in a Red Cross or FEMA food line for 8 hours just to get a little spoonful of soup or something. It's not bad at all. I probably wouldn't choose it over McDonald's, or even you can get those McDonald's style hash brown cakes in the frozen section of the grocery store. Fry those up in a little oil. They're pretty darn good. These aren't quite as good as either of those, but I'm liking it. For what it is, I'm pretty happy with how it came out. I might have to experiment a little more with potato flakes, but first step, get more potatoes. So it's probably going to be at least another, I don't know, 9 or 12 months before I can make some more potato flake videos. But I guess that's about it. I'm going to see how the pup likes it. I'm sure she's going to be, very discerning with her opinion on it. But that's it. Until next time, this is Great Lakes Prepping. Why are you making that face? I feel like you're doing this to humor me, but you don't necessarily love it. That's pretty good. Thank you.